Hi, am I audible now? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
just
Ragini, I can hear you.
I don't know why is she not able to join. I've given her speaker access as well.
Join Dongbet session is paused.
Okay, let me see.
So where is that respective link?
For this meet, I've mailed it to you guys as well.
Okay.
I did send a mail again in the morning.
No, no, if you have it handy, just paste it here so that she can at least see. Do you have it handy?
Attendee, okay, so I think she left the meet.
I see she's chatting.
Okay, so I think we should have two judges here, right? Shivam, one is Reema ma'am, the second is Avneet sir. So, where is he?
Yeah, and in which session you are looking at?
This particular session only. The other two panels are going fine. The judges have joined. For this particular one, we want Reema ma'am and Avneet sir.
Hey Ragini,
Yeah.
in which session she?
She is here only. I don't know why she's not able to unmute.
No, no,
She
I
has
don't see
speaker.
her. I only see three people.
Okay. Just a second.
Is there any way we can unmute her? Or is
Uh,
there any respective
yeah,
link?
I've added
Yeah, I
her.
think Rima is done.
Okay,
Maybe.
yeah. Hi, Reema ma'am, can you unmute yourself now?
Me? Hello.
Yeah, hi, you're audible now.
My God. Okay.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
crazy.
right. Okay, so I'll just give you a short brief on the session. So we'll be having the teams here, and each team slot is around 25 minutes. So the first 15 minutes, the team will be giving their presentations. The next 5 minutes will open floor for Q&A. So you guys have to ask questions based on the presentation if you have any questions. And the next 5 minutes, after these 20 minutes, the entire presentation will be over. That those 5 minutes can be used for scoring. I've shared the score sheet with you guys. I hope you have received the scoring sheet.
Yeah, but in this scoring sheet, I don't know, there's several points, right? The
Yeah,
first
yeah.
column say 105, the other one say 60. What is this? I mean, it's not totaling up to anything.
Okay, all right. So I'll just yeah. So basically, it's like the entire presentation is split into 300 points. The entire presentation is of 300 points, and these are basically the parameters. So the first is basically of 100, and the first parameter is 105 points. Then and so on. So these are basically the maximum points. So you have to score them out of this maximum. Let's say first parameter you think the team has done pretty well, so maybe you can give them a score of around 90 on 105. Similarly for the other parameters as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope
Okay.
that is clear.
Yeah. So which team is coming first?
So team number five, I think I have given the order there as well in the sheet.
Yeah.
Team
Yeah.
team five will be coming first.
Okay, let's start then.
Oh yeah, the slots will start from 9:30 onwards. We are waiting for Avneet sir as well.
Avineet is on his way. He's going to take some time. So,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
is it having two judges mandatory, or I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Vinod is there.
Okay, but I haven't shared a score sheet with him. I'll do that then. I'll just do that.
It's okay. Score sheet will be filled only after 25 minutes, right? So,
Yeah,
Avineet should join by then.
yeah. But yeah, he has to be there for the entire presentation, or else how will he score?
So
Is
Ragini, you can
Vinod in
share the
any
sheet
other?
with Vinod sir.
Yeah, yeah. I'll share the sheet with Vinod sir right
Yeah.
now.
So we have other two panelists, two panels. There we have two judges each. So I think you can share with Vinod sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So, Shivam, we have to go through all the five today, or how is it?
Yeah, Rima. All six. You were assigned six actually. So
Okay.
yeah, all six. Yeah, they'll be presenting all six.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, Ragini, do we have the coordinator with each panel, or you will be the coordinator for all three panels?
Yeah, yeah. We have coordinator for all three panels.
So Ragini, just to confirm again, Venkat and Rajiv they are in one. Saurabh and Suman they are in two, and Rima and Vinod they are in session three, right? Ragini, are you there?
She's on mute.
Rima, are
Yeah.
you there?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, 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 yeah. You're audible.
Yeah. So what I was saying that can you confirm I mean all the panelists are doing fine. They have joined their respective calls.
Yeah. Yeah. They have every panelist has joined their respective calls. Just a second. Okay. Team number five, presenters, can you raise your hand, please? So I'll be sending you guys invites to stage. Presenters, please accept that.
Is it going to be here or in some email or Ragini? Where is
Yeah.
the invite?
Participants, please raise your hands. The ones who will be joining.
The mail?
Um, Hi, Devraj. Okay. Yeah.
Shivam, I have not received anything. Okay, so I don't know how to join.
Ragini, one more of our teammate is waiting, so like, can
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Just a second. Okay. I think all the five presenters are here. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. So just like a few instructions. So basically, you guys will have 15 minutes. I hope you guys have presenter access as well.
Yes, we
Cool.
have.
Yeah, so you have 15 minutes for your presentation. We will be, a buzzer will be going off just before 2 minutes. So you guys have to wrap up your presentation in those 2 minutes. Post that, we'll have a 5 minute Q&A session where the judges will be asking you guys questions. And yeah, then the presentation ends.
We,
Quick mic check.
yeah, sorry, 1 second. We're waiting for Avneet, right? I think he's. Can we get him backstage here?
Yeah, has he joined?
Yeah, that's what he's messaging.
Okay, okay.
Shivam, he's there on the group, right?
Yeah, sir, can you hear me?
Wait, I'll add him on stage.
Hello.
Yeah, Shivam. Yeah, okay. Avneet is also here now.
Okay.
Okay,
All
finally.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, hi.
Hi, Avneet sir, I've shared the score sheet with you.
Sure,
So,
admin.
yeah, so basically, the teams will be giving a 15-minute presentation followed by a 5-minute Q&A session. So, in that Q&A session, you guys will be asking the teams question based on their presentation. And post that, there'll be 5 minutes where you guys will be scoring the respective teams on the score sheet that I have shared with you guys.
Sure.
I hope the thing is clear. All right. Okay, so since all the judges are here, we'll be starting with the session.
Sorry to interrupt. Just one more thing. Like, could you please let us know what is the exact signal for that? That only 2 minutes is left.
Okay, just a second. I'll just play the buzzer.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we have a quick mic check for our team?
Huh?
Can we have a quick mic check for our team?
Can you guys have a?
Quick mic check for our team.
Yeah, Jay. Go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Am I audible as well?
yeah.
Hello, mic check. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Can you also let us know what is the cue for starting the presentation?
Anshika, you're not audible. You have to
Hello,
unmute.
hello.
Yeah,
Am I
you're
audible?
audible. You're audible. Yeah. So yeah, you guys can start. We'll just start the timer the moment you guys start your presentation.
Good morning, everybody. We are Team 5. In its most recent convention, members of NOSI, National Association for Well-Known Companies of India, and unanimously expressed their interest towards making their supply chain sustainable. We, the NOSI Task Force, are going to walk you all through an action plan for NOSI that will work towards collectively reducing the carbon footprint of its members' supply chain in the next 5 years and beyond. The world is concerned, and so are we. Glasgow Summit stressed on releasing COP26 guidelines for reducing the carbon footprint. India too considers emission as a great problem and has taken steps to replace fossil fuels and reduce net carbon emissions. We at NOSI focus on the consumer goods sector, which takes up 30% of the emission chunk in India. Inspecting the current outlook of various stakeholders towards this goal, we see ambivalent stances. Though consumer behavior has been hard to influence, there has been rapid movement in the government and industrial sector. NOSI comprises traditional and e-commerce players with distinct supply chains. A brief glance over the same illustrates various touchpoints we can influence. With a major share of emissions in traditional supply chain being contributed by transportation due to high movement between customers and retail centers, um, e-commerce gets its major chunk from packaging. Also, most prominent concerns include inefficiencies in last mile delivery, in energy sourcing and utilization of warehouses, massive wastage of packaging material, and the unoptimized reverse logistics. From the perspective of NOSI, we've identified the major roadblocks that are hindering businesses from optimizing their sustainability journey. You can't manage what you can't measure. Scope 3 emissions present a massive layer of complexity as they lack proper accounting when compared to Scope 1 and 2. It is therefore imperative to improve data transparency for measuring emissions. Targets set, but how to deliver? Walmart pledged to procure 100% of its energy from renewable sources by 2012, but had reached only 19%. A lot of firms expressed such similar commitments but failed to reach those targets. This calls for a strategic roadmap that takes practicality into account. Achieving sustainability is not a one player game. Synergy in roadmaps for reducing emissions will not exist if consumer behavior lacks direction towards sustainability. And innovation towards molding consumer behavior has a high dependence on collaborative solutions. Therefore, collaboration is equally important, and NOSI in its capacity has a lot of scope to influence on this front. We now arrive at our strategy. Since NOSI has members of various sizes and dimensions, a one size fits all strategy does not make sense here. Instead, we have several solutions under three broad categories, combinations of which will have the perfect corporate strategic fit for each member. Capture, control, and collaborate, the three C's of sustainability. Adapting this 3C framework in the next 5 years and catalyzing this process with NOSI's very own digital solution is what we propose.
The impact of our 5-year roadmap is quantified here. We have assessed the environmental, cost, and business impacts and presented them in 3 time phases. We have analyzed 15 solutions from our pool of 36 solutions, achieving an emissions reduction of about 11% at the end of 5 years. The total investment comes out at $850 million. Further, talking of the business impact, there would be a potential increase in market share due to sustainable branding and increase in delivery capacity. SLS will witness a major shift due to reforms in sustainable packaging and data capturing methods, and customer satisfaction will be mildly affected as most of the solutions we propose do not affect consumer touchpoints. Next, we have laid out the comprehensive timeline for the deployment of our roadmap divided in a phase-wise manner. This is the layout of our capture timeline. In phase 1, the foundations for data capturing are set. In phase 2, we promote actions based on insight. And finally, in phase 3, companies are rewarded for their initiatives in the form of green certifications and positive consumer impact. Scope 3 emissions account for around 70% of a firm's carbon footprint, and hence its estimation is imperative for carbon footprint reduction. But unfortunately, they are the ones hardest to record. Our capture initiative takes care of this aspect and focuses on modifying the data collection methodologies so that companies can know where they stand. The initiatives can be broadly divided into 3 categories. First, data capturing. For this, NOSI needs to develop sector specific frameworks for measuring emissions and cost impact. And the member companies need to restructure their existing data collection methods. Second, benchmarking. Using data from member companies, industry benchmarks can be established, which is facilitated through our proposed NOSI digital platform. And finally, standardization. NOSI would have its own standardization mandates and certifications through which the sustainability claims of its member companies can be backed. Next, we look at the various frameworks required to implement our capture initiative. The emission framework calculates the normalized emissions of a firm so that they can be compared with the set standards. The cost impact framework involves assessing switching cost and estimating a payback period. Based on them, firms can decide whether to go forward with the solution. And finally, the timeline integration framework helps translate the generalized roadmap to a customized one by comparing the net present value and options value to delay a solution. To incorporate benchmarking and standardization in the industry under the Capture initiative, we need to understand 3 key points. First, significance of data estimation. Under our digital platform, member companies can feed their emissions data through the APIs integrated into their accounting system and get intelligent estimates of Scope 3 emissions derived from data provided by all members. Second, the concern regarding data privacy, the responsibility of which falls upon NOSI. For this, initially we are going to collaborate with an IT solutions provider, but later we advocate the adoption of blockchain technology. And finally, NOSI Green certification would enforce standardization of sustainability practices. By enrolling a multi-tiered certification system, stakeholders will acknowledge the greenest companies in India.
We shall now look at how we plan to implement action items under control involving conventional changes in the supply chain. Solutions a NOSI member can implement on a company-wide scale to reduce carbon footprint will be covered under the control part of our strategy. Addressing the 3 legs under NOSI scope, transportation, warehousing, and packaging, we introduce you to flagship initiatives under each of them. Every solution proposed from here on for the control segment has been examined via a quadra bucket of viability checkpoints. They are the scope of the solution, ease of implementation, feasibility, and the impact associated with each solution. In this slide, we present the initiatives for transportation addressing electrification of the delivery fleet, increased focus on water and ground freight, route optimizations, and solving last mile inefficiencies. We have rated each initiative as low, medium, and high for the buckets in our framework. As with the current trend, electrification in the last mile stands out from others after assessment. Specific solutions have been proposed for each of these initiatives, and a comprehensive breakdown of the impact created by each has been presented in the appendix. Following are the ones with a good mix of feasibility, integration, and high impact. Besides these, we also have several innovative solutions which can be deployed in the long run. Moving on, we present the initiatives for warehousing. The initiatives address sustainable warehouse development, renewable energy sourcing, and optimizing operations to reduce carbon impact. With the advent of technology, smart warehouses make transforming operations to carbon efficient ones the most feasible and impactful initiative. Similar to transportation, we bring to you conventional solutions for warehousing as well as innovative ones that can be adopted in the long run. In the backdrop of these solutions, we have also drafted a guideline for sustainable warehouse development. Lastly, we are looking at packaging, footprint for which has been growing at the rate of 27% year on year in e-commerce. Initiatives for this leg of the supply network highlight adoption of sustainable packaging and the philosophy of reduce, reuse, and recycle. Here also, we show the conventional as well as the innovative solutions for the packaging leg for each of the four initiatives. This is the carbon abatement cost curve for the 15 highlighted solutions. The width of each bar is a representation of the magnitude of the amount of CO2 emissions reduced upon implementation. Solutions such as electric forklifts have a negative cost per unit ton, implying that the solution will not only significantly reduce carbon emissions, but also lead to annual savings. These are the low-hanging fruits and our must-have solutions. Wider solutions on the right, like the use of multi-use polyester bags for returns, represent a high-cost, high-reward scenario and are suitable for a later day.
Finally, we look at the collaborate branch of our three C's. Taking cues from the COP26 directions, the third stage of our strategy is collaboration, enabled by Northeast Sustainability Development Center, or SDC. We propose utilizing the capital pooled in by each member to set up Northeast Innovation Center, CISSC, to bridge the R&D gap and focus on measures to influence behaviors of stakeholders that include government and consumers. An instance of how collaboration can influence environmental consciousness has been illustrated here. Here we show a glimpse of the sustainability ecosystem centered around NOSI. Every arrow indicates how two stakeholders interact within the ecosystem. The two core functions of NOSI are to build consumer awareness and provide green certifications. By doing so, NOSI would bring about a domino effect and collectively push consumers and companies towards sustainability. The change in consumer behavior will help in the implementation of solutions that affect the consumer satisfaction by presenting them as a choice because you don't complain when the choice is yours. While you are talking about consumer behaviors, a disturbing trend that has emerged is an increase in the returns percent following the boost to e-commerce. In 2018 alone, Flipkart incurred losses worth approx 31.5 billion due to the high rate of product returns. The reverse logistics are a menace to all the three ideas of capture, control, and collab and deserve separate attention. The statistics presented here highlight how the return experience can make or break the market share. A smooth process of returns forms the core of customer satisfaction, which is evident through the consumer switch rates. The major causes of returns include delivery of damaged parcels, different product appearance, wrong deliveries, and consumer malpractices. Having identified the root causes for returns and highlighted the importance for optimized reverse logistics, we move towards addressing the primary pain points. The issue of returns in the supply chain can be addressed through opting for in-store returns, incentivized through campaigns and loyalty bonuses. The expense in reverse logistics can be eased through opting for third-party drop-off locations and enabling returns through mail. The cost associated with maintaining personalized return centers can be mended through AI to predict the occurrence of returns and directing them for resale.
We have time and again referred to a proposal of building Gnosis digital platform that shall be a major enabler of the 5-year roadmap. This video will walk you through a prototype of how we envision this platform to be.
To create a hood under which sustainability can foster with firm roots, we propose a web application for NOSI. Here its members can capture their emissions, control them, and collaborate for synergy. Every member can log into the portal to access and extract further benefits from the organization. Keeping in mind the member diversity, we have a host of user personas and shall now be exploring the company profile as an example. Every company shall possess a personalized dashboard to compare their current industry position in terms of sustainability. At the top, we have insight metrics where they can capture and measure their performance with respect to industry average. Then we have reports to showcase scope-wise emissions data pulled from their APIs linked with the company's internal SAPs and ERPs. For getting an impact analysis, expenditure breakup, and cost impact reports are developed. Finally, the spotlight USP of the platform is to generate a company-specific sustainability roadmap that tailors to its urgent constraints and data pipelines. We have additional features such as certifications, metric reports, and many more to the left. To share best practices, NORSE should also launch a Sustainable Development Center to educate its members on the state of the art carbon neutral solutions. Similarly, the Center for Innovation in Sustainable Supply Chain focuses on propagating new research topics through which the innovative ideas from academia can be propagated into the corporate world.
To summarize the video, our key features are emission profile monitoring, green certification, and customized roadmap. The platform also empowers other stakeholders, namely consumers, startups and academia, and ESG investors. They can become our key sustainability enablers by associating with member companies to achieve their objectives. To consolidate the efforts of all stakeholders, dashboards acts as a central umbrella and unifies the three C's. Then we look at various existing problems falling under this 3C framework and find solutions with the help of our digital platform. To validate our framework and our digital solution, we spoke to industry professionals, and here are their key insights. All of them rated our platform positively and commended its ingenuity. They also recognized substantial improvements this can bring to the current industry outlook. No plan of action is totally perfect, but is bound to contain some barriers to implementation. We have identified the potential pitfalls and also found ways to resolve them. The high upfront cost present in some of our solutions can be a deterrent for small companies. Others include redesigning existing infrastructure and data privacy concerns. The company specific roadmaps, fund pooling initiatives of SDC, bringing ESG investors on board will work towards navigating these hurdles. With this, we conclude our presentation and hope that our analysis meets your expectation. We are now open to questions.
Hello, this is Avneet. Hi, very good presentation. Thank you. Thanks for the detailed layout. Just one thing, Shivam, probably, are you on the call right now? If not Shivam, Ragni, because I just want to make it clear.
Validate, yeah, validate the
Go
team
ahead.
presentation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is the team number which I have a little confusion because the presentation which I got from Shivam earlier for the Nossi team was team marked as team 3, and you guys introduced yourself as team 5, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. This was team five.
Okay, so there looks to be some confusion there, for sure. Okay, that I'll check with Shivam later. Shivam, you there?
Yeah, so Avneet sir, I think what Shivam sir told me was that you guys evaluated the reports of like a few teams, and those teams are basically present on this panel. So the score sheet has the order of the teams as well. So the first team that was supposed to present was team five.
Okay. The score sheet,
Which it
Ragini,
is.
sorry for the confusion, but I don't have the score sheet. If you can just send it to me, I'm sure you have my email ID. Please send the score sheet to me. Okay. Thank you. So now going to the presentation, just I want to understand, you have mentioned a very good platform. What is your plan to scale this entire solution? I mean, how will you, um, uh, are you gonna host it on some cloud platform, or is it already hosted on cloud platform? What is this scale problem? How are you gonna solve the scale problem? That's the first question. And second, you mentioned in the transportation segment electrification of the vehicle, right? Now that's my personal belief that when you are saying electrification of the vehicle, you are ultimately just passing your carbon footprint to the carbon footprint at the power plants, right? Because ultimately in India specifically, there is a significant amount of electricity comes from the fossil fuels, right? What are your other ways of optimizing the entire transportation? Okay, if someone can just answer this in a couple of minutes, we are good to go.
Sure, sir. I'll take up the first question about scaling the digital platform that we're proposing. So to begin with, how we plan to take care of the tech part of it, we are looking at onboarding with a third-party IT provider because just because of the data privacy issues, we don't think NOSI should be the one that is handling all of the company data, and understandably so because companies will have concerns regarding that. And regarding scaling this solution, we have provided a phase-wise plan in the timeline itself, and we don't think onboarding all the companies at once is completely possible, which is why we have accounted for that as well. Initially, they'll start off with understanding how the dashboard works, and then on board with certain data points about their firms that will help the platform understand what the scale of these companies are, because all the recommendations and the features that are applicable for companies will differ, and it needs to be customized based on which leg of the supply chain they operate in, or the scale of the companies itself, right? So based on the onboarding process, then then you initiate how you can integrate certain API endpoints to their ERP database, that can then fetch the required data points to calculate the emissions data required for the dashboard. And if you want us to revisit the timeline, we can do that as well. I
Okay,
hope that answers your
that's fine, Nasra. Thank you. Someone can answer the second question, please.
Sir, can you repeat the question once?
So the question was on, you mentioned during the transportation segment, you mentioned about the electrification of the vehicle is one of the solution to for basically sustainable supply chain, right? Now, most of the most of the electricity, not only in India but in major countries, come from the fossil fuels, right? So you are basically, or when someone says that electrification of the vehicle is a solution to a sustainable supply chain or sustainable transportation, you are passing your carbon footprint to the power plant carbon, right? I mean,
Yes.
ultimately somewhere the fossil is being burnt, right? Are there any other ways which you think can be a solution to a sustainable transportation in a global supply chain?
So, if we consider just transportation, and if we directly use, non-renewable energy for that, then it becomes a problem. But to solve for this, we, thought of RECs. RECs are basically renewable energy certificates. So, all the transportation energy that you will be using under your green transportation initiative will should be procured via renewable sources, and for that, NOSI will have a mandate to have RECs for the same. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Adding on to what my friend just said, I think specifically when we're looking at India, 70% of the freight transportation is happening on road right now. And if we were to look at reducing, and that is itself a major contributor to emissions. So at least in the next 5 years, if you're looking at reducing the transportation emissions from transportation front, different ways that we can again explore is the initiatives that government is taking up right now. A significant part of this transportation can be converted to alternative modes like railways and inland waterways that are being fiercely like promoted by the government as well. That is again an alternative which has extremely less emissions compared to electric vehicles.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. That's all. Rima, you have any questions?
I think
Okay,
the
if not, then
presentation was good. Yeah, and I think they're out of time, so that's okay. I wanted to ask a couple of
Yeah,
questions
the
on
time for the
packaging.
Q&A session
Yeah,
is over.
yeah,
Okay.
that's okay.
Thank you, Manana.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
team.
you.
Ragini,
Thank you so
because
much.
you have, sorry, you are there. I don't have access to the link which you shared. Can you please provide me the access? I requested for the access already
Avneet
for the
sir, I
Google Sheet.
actually shared you the Google Sheet like on your
Yeah,
Blue Yonder mail ID like quite some time back.
yeah, it says you need access,
Okay.
and I clicked on request access because I'm signed in as my Gmail ID. My Gmail ID. Do
Yeah,
I need
so
to
I
change it?
shared it to you on your Blue Yonder ID.
Okay, we'll try.
Yeah, so can
Okay,
you
we'll try.
open it through that? Yeah, okay. Also, Vinod sir, I've shared you the score sheet as well.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah, please check.
Are we moving to the next presentation?
Yeah, yeah. We'll be starting in a few minutes.
Ragini, can you remove our team from this?
Yeah, judges, please wrap up your scoring. And team four, please raise your hands. The presenters from team four.
Ah,
Oh, I can't see anything. So
Kavya, you can share your screen
Yeah.
and we can start.
this is team 4, yeah?
Yes, we are team 4.
Yeah, this is team 4. Okay, so I've added all the 5 presenters from team 4. Like, please check your mic and see if you guys have presenter access.
Am I audible?
Hi. Yes,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
audible. Okay. So we'll start now. Greetings,
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
May I start now?
Just a second. Yeah, please go ahead. Start.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Kavya here with Aryan and Madhur, and we are here to present a solution to address the massive carbon footprint associated with the supply chain. We are Team 4. We'll be building on the idea of utilizing and powering strategic local partnership with disruptive innovations in packaging and transportation and warehousing with the objective of formalizing a 5-year detailed plan inclined towards sustainability structuring. Let's start by analyzing some of these current supply chain models. Traditional supply chain consists of several components starting from sourcing of raw materials, their manufacture, distribution to retailers, and finally reaching the end customers. Several models of distribution exist, like the marketplace model, wherein the sellers are provided a platform for selling their goods, and even the company-based inventory models. After the customers place their orders, the requests are routed through and fulfilled through local warehouses. Modern supply chain systems make use of data analytics for predictions and last mile logistics. The ongoing pandemic has also given the need to rise for a strong local ecosystem of logistic partners, increase in the number of warehouses to satisfy the consumer demands, and improvements in reverse logistics. Because supply chain consumes large resources at a large scale, they're responsible for a disproportionately large share of world's carbon emissions. 2016 reports from McKinsey and CDP showed greenhouse gases emissions in consumer packed goods accounted for 33 gigatons of carbon dioxide in 2015 alone. Additionally, more than 90% of natural capital impact of consumer sector is in supply chains. Even large multinational companies like Amazon, which saw colossal growth of near to 200% in the start of pandemic, reported a 15% increase in the carbon emissions in the year 2020. With the rise of hyperlocal delivery models like those of Zepto, companies have been investing more and more in dark stores acting as mini warehouses. Larger consumer-based companies like Flipkart were also seen to add multiple warehouses and sorting centers across various locations to cater to the growing demand and the need for an enriching customer experience. In a country like India, where electricity fulfillment is primarily done using coal-based solutions, this machinery maintenance and construction poses a major threat to the associated carbon emissions. From the data that we found in India Warehousing Market Report 2021, we found that India currently has 30.6 million square feet area covered by warehouses, with 20% area lying vacant. According to the data provided by Carbon Click, a firm specializing in helping companies and individuals reducing their carbon offset, we found out that the freight sales make up to 10 to 33% of carbon footprint in an e-commerce sale. Impatient delivery or fast delivery was also found to have damaging effect on carbon emissions in case of returns. And because even in case of returns, the goods were supposed to reroute, the emissions mostly consisted of transportation and wasted packaging during the return journey. Sustainable packaging is also an issue for e-commerce companies due to the high associated costs and lesser tensile strengths as compared to its alternatives like plastics. Brands and retailers take extreme measure to protect the packages that have not been designed to withstand the rough distribution lines. Besides creating an unpleasant unboxing experience for the customers, these packaging creates waste as they are usually non-recyclable and discarded upon arrival. Moreover, parcels originating from e-commerce contain approximately 30% of airspace or void, promoting inefficiencies in utilizing of resources. To gain insights about carbon footprints associated with different consumer behaviors along the entire buying process, we took help of an online study analyzing the search, purchase, and return chain of a simple toy product by a traditional shopper and an online shopper. The online shopper's carbon footprint was found to be twice as small as that of a traditional shopper. The main component leading to emissions in the traditional shopper, as can be seen, was found to be customer transport, whereas freight transportation and packaging were the reasons of emissions for a e-commerce shopper. To gauge ourselves further with the actual problems faced by the retail to customer supply chain, we conducted some ground level surveys. The key points of highlights that we found were that the mode of transport that the store owners used for delivery was mostly scooters and motorcycles. It was also found that sometimes one trip was not sufficient to deliver all the items, and they faced problems like cancellations, multiple deliveries to the same location wasting fuel, as well as no compensation for goods damaged on the way. Apart from this, the cartons loaded in their used for loading goods in their stores were either sent away to delivery for customers and never used again, or sold to junkyard sellers. We'll now move forward towards tackling the high carbon emitting components of the supply chain. This is an overview of the 5-year detailed plan that we'll be discussing in the upcoming slides. We'll start by establishing and introducing renewable energy and automation throughout our facilities. The Indian warehouse automation market is projected to be a soaring $512 million by 2026, starting from $80 million in 2020. Companies like Flipkart and Amazon have shown exemplary examples in setting up their automation system and hence reducing their carbon emissions from the same. Present infrastructure suggests that solar panels can suffice the current energy needs in the warehouses. The average amount of energy that an Indian warehouse consumes in a year is found to be 1.8 million kilowatt hour. Empirically, it is possible and profitable for companies to adopt renewables. Now Madhu will take over.
In our second year, we will be building strategic partnerships locally. So the earlier current model prevalent in the industry is that the orders are rerouted from the company to the main warehouse, and from there the orders come to the local warehouses and finally come to the customers. But in our model, we propose that instead of this, the orders will come to the company from the customers and directly went to the nearby partner stores in that city, and from there through last mile deliveries it will come to the customers. This model will be very customer friendly, will reduce the transportation time and massively reduce the carbon footprint. We can see that this model is currently also used by GeoMart, and they are able to implement this model in a very successful manner. Next slide. Here we can see how the model of regional warehouses to the customers with respect to partner stores are different. We can also see that in some places initially we would not be able to establish the partner stores, but at those places we will establish the micro fulfillment centers near the target areas to reduce the cost of last mile transportation. Next slide. In our third year, we will move towards better logistic and reusable packaging. Research shows that e-rickshaw saves 20 tons of CO2 emitted per year per city, and we will also partner with third-party logistics for our last mile delivery services. We will tackle empty miles problem with model shifts for best fit. Next slide. We will also incorporate streamlined analytics and technological innovations. In the image, we can see that how we can include big data analytics and 3D modeling techniques in different processes of supply chain, starting from sourcing to consumer. For example, we can improve the picking warehouse space allocation, workload optimization, real-time routing, and out-of-stock detection, etc. in our warehouses systems. Next slide. We will further improve the packaging techniques by using automated packaging machines to reduce the less excess air in each parcel. We will use made-to-fit packaging to improve our profitability further by reducing the packaging spend. Also, we will move towards better, eco-friendly, reliable, and reusable packaging materials like mushroom packaging and sugarcane packaging. Next slide. We will introduce a carbon-friendly initiative whereby the customers would be given a choice to return their packaging upon delivery itself, which would later be recycled for use. This initiative will not only help in recovering large quantities of packaging, but will also save the fuel and transport movements to waste disposable sites. And survey suggests that this leads to a 4 billion pounds of packaging removal in America 8,15,000 vehicles removed from American roads and large amounts of gallons of gasoline consumption avoided. Next slide. In a fourth year, we will incorporate EV fleet and battery fleet truck. On the left graph, we can see how the adoption of EV will reduce the energy consumption as well as CO2 emissions in both three-wheelers as well as four-wheelers. We will improve the adoption of four-wheeler EV, which is currently very less in our country. We will also establish large-scale logistic hubs and partner with different EV charging companies to improve our EV adoption. We also seen that Indian e-commerce operators are aiming to replace 30 to 50% of their fleet with EV. And we will also incentivize our local partner stores to move towards EV and sustainable practices, and we will incentivize them by giving them various kinds of initiatives. Next slide. Finally, in our last year, we will invest in innovations. We will do more automation in our warehouses by developing new data analysis models. We will also explore transportation through roll-in and roll-out in Indian railways, overhead electrical highways for trucks throughout the Golden Quadrilateral with the Government of India. This is the new initiative by Government of India starting from mid 2022 itself. We will also invest into R&D of efficient packaging materials. And in some places where we won't be able to use partner stores, we will shift to a better hub and spoke model in comparison to point model, which will be more efficient for the company, will reduce the transportation distance, as well as will reduce the carbon footprint. Finally, we will explore latest technological solutions like cloud computing in our internal operations, and will partner with blockchain companies like VChain, which is very famous in supply chain solutions and has already partnered with different top supply chain companies like Walmart, Nike, Adidas, etc. Now Aryan will continue from here.
Intermodal transport is simply the best fit transportation model which is connected seamlessly. Many global transportation solutions exist, like the Crescent Corridor in the US, which saves upon INR 4,000 crore and 1.7 million tons of gasoline of CO2. Schneider is a global leader in intermodal transport, which is able to reduce 30% of the operating cost rather than on the road transport. The predictions of the analysis of 2021 are on the right. India, with its rapidly developing infrastructure, needs these multimodal hubs for both public and private routes. The Bharatmala, the Sagarmala, and the DFC corridors are currently in progress. The next slide. Niti Aayog in June 2021 had issued a roadmap revolutionizing freight transport in India. Three main parts were discussed: increasing rail freight share, optimizing truck usage and thereby reducing empty miles, and eco-friendly warehousing and transportation practices, alongside promoting alternate technologies like electric vehicles, fuel cell, and more efficient internal combustion engines or ICE trucks. It stressed more on public-private stakeholders partnership to bring in the change. The government's role in developing adequate infra and supportive policies, but private players need flawless integration in their supply chains. It is time that the firms need to rethink strategies for optimal supply chain modeling and reducing their net carbon footprints. Next slide. We predict that by the end of 5 years, we will have around 90% carbon net-free transportation, 100% recyclability and usability of packaging, and 70% adoption of renewable energy by our partner stores. Next slide. We will now be working on the strategic fit of our model. Apart from the manifold reductions in cost to company and carbon emissions by replacing burning of fossil fuels, renewables are an attractive option for supply chains because they can help attract customers, partners, and employees alike, and it provides price stability over coal-based options and mitigates future risks on fossil fuels, thereby enhancing the brand value. The strategic local partnerships aids not only in decreasing massive transportation costs of goods to people, but also solving the redundant packaging and reverse logistics due to returning of goods. The next slide. Reusable packaging along with ideal shape fit saves on freight and packaging costs. EV logistics with the latest associated advancements can be implemented. The initial costs are quite high, but with economies of scale, the original equipment manufacturers can work upon making cost-effective solutions. The next slide. We have three innovative models by Amazon India, Farmeasy, and Geomart as shown. Our model combines the key aspects from all these three, ranging from local areas partner stores to full-fledged EV adoption. Members have to come forward, collaborate together towards a common goal. Competition does exist, but with sustainability in mind. The next slide. All the facts which are presented here are from credible organizations as shown here. Thank you, and the floor is now open for the Q&A session.
Okay, very nice presentation. Thank you, Kavya and team. Avneet here. Um, One question you mentioned about the intermodal transportation, right? Now that's a very good topic, but how are you planning to enable and optimize the intermodal transportation in a world of next day and same day delivery? I mean, you're looking that you want people want to get order people want to order and get the items in few hours, if not days. How will the intermodal transportation will help in that kind of industry which we are living in?
I'll answer this question. What I feel is that intermodal transportation, as we suggested that we would be having partner stores, it's not that we are eliminating entire infrastructure of all those large companies for partner stores, but it as a supplement it acts. And for intermodal transportation is because we are focusing on large companies. So intermodal transportation would mainly be beneficial to supply these items to the partner stores on a regular basis. And regarding the same day delivery, I think for that we would be having solutions in two-wheelers and three-wheelers. So it's in a phase-wise manner which we can do. It depends upon the best fit solution for a specific situation. This is what I
So
feel. I
what is the
think
best fit
someone
solution for
else.
you in this case? I mean, when you mention best fit solution, because intermodal normally for the larger part of the transportation, it should cover through the rail and then it should when we are talking within the country, right? Not through the sea ocean. And the next or the last leg should be through the road, right? Um, what is your solution? What have you guys thought about it?
I would be actually thinking that what we need is that the government should be coming forward with, because NAWCI is itself a powerful body. So along with the government and the policy makers, we can focus more on the collaboration, or I would say that they can advise the government on what their basic requirements are. And regarding the rail transport, the point is correct that rail transport today is a bit slow, but with improvements over short-term distances, I think is some extent because the dedicated freight corridors have been developed. That is, the eastern dedicated freight corridor is already operational. So over short distances, it can be a good option. If we are considering carbon emissions in mind, then rail transport over short distances, it is a good option, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you,
Sir,
Arvind.
I would also like to add one point.
Go ahead, Madhur.
Sir, for everyday items, we would be delivering that things just the way GeoMart currently does. So, like we have partnered with different companies, and from that local areas only, the once the product is ordered, our company would send those orders to the nearby partner stores, and from there only within one day or within few hours, those everyday items can easily come to the customer in a very less time. And we can also see that geomart is currently doing it in a successful way, and we will slowly incorporate both the practices for different products in a phased wise manner.
Okay, and one last question, and then we can wrap it up. When you move your packaging material from plastic to, let's say, paper, right? What is the impact on the? Have you guys done any research, any calculation? Because ultimately, for the paper, for the cardboards, you are ultimately cutting down the trees, right? What is the impact on the carbon footprint when you move from plastic to paper? And is there a way that you remain in plastic and focus more on recycling?
So I would like to take this question. So it's very, very important to us that we save the environment while not polluting it with excess plastic. So the current methods of sustainable packaging, these are not so friendly in terms of like, for example, as you said, paper is friendly in terms of like environment, but it's harming the environment in one way or the other. So to tackle this issue, we'll be focusing on packaging material which are first of all degradable and does not harm the environment in any way. Like we found about mushroom packaging and like that, and we even found out about the emissions through those as well. And here is the chart about the as you were asking, the emissions related to carbon emissions related to between carbon, cardboard, paper, and that plastics.
Sir, I would like to continue on this point regarding if we use paper, then it will be regarding to cutting of trees. But in the case of mushroom packaging, it is completely the reusable bacteria and also the agricultural waste in which it is available in every form which is produced, and we could import it in a large amount of tons. And if we could implement the factory, then it would be like it is low
Teams, the
cost.
time for Q&A is over, so please
And
wrap it.
to add on to that,
Okay.
may I?
Thank you. I think the time for Q&A is
The
over.
time
We'll
is
move to the
over. The
next.
time for
Yeah.
Q&A
Okay.
is over.
Okay, okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir,
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Team 2, please raise your hands. The presenters from Team 2.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, team,
Yeah.
please
Can we
confirm
start?
if you guys can speak and present.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Just one second. Uh, just let us know when we can start.
Yeah, you guys can start.
All right. Can you imagine what a piece of tape can do? Well, for starters, it can save the earth. Baffling, isn't it? So let me give you more context here. JD, the largest e-commerce player in China, reduced their packaging tape size from 54 to 45 Well, what's so great in just interchanging digits? Why should anyone even care? Well, you should care because this move by JD has saved them 400 million meters of tape annually, which is equivalent to circling the earth 10 times. Lesser tape means lesser plastic, a greener supply chain, and a step towards sustainability. Hello, we are Team 2, and we are here to discuss our suggestions, focusing on creating a future ready, greener supply chain by suggesting simple yet impactful solutions. So, let us begin by setting the premise. Imagine you order a product online, say a mobile phone. What goes behind? There are 5 simple steps. Generally, the product once manufactured by the seller leaves the factory, reaches the e-retailer's warehouse. This is where your Amazons or your Flipkarts take over, and the point where the scope of a problem statement begins. From here, it goes to the warehouse nearest to your city, and from there, it goes to a local distribution center. And from there, voila, the product reaches you. But say there is some defect in your phone and you want to return it. So then the phone goes through a reverse process. Too many processes here, right? Now just pause for a second and ponder. Just consider the number of trucks, bikes, papers, packets, transactions involved in this whole process. And all of this is not so straightforward. There are multiple ways in which this whole exercise can pan out for different e commerce players. You might then ask, what are these differences? Well, here is what. In the marketplace model, the e commerce is like an online shopping mall. Many sellers open their stores, vis a vis list their products. The sellers take care of quality assurance. You go there, pick what you want, and either the seller or the e commerce ships the product. But this model sees huge return percentages. The next two models are quite similar. The quality assurance and shipping both are taken care of by the e-commerce. The difference though is that in the inventory-led model, the e-commerce buys the inventory, and this is hence only appealing to those who have deep pockets. Whereas the e-retailer fulfilled model dictates that the seller receives payment only as per the demand generated by the e-commerce platform. So due to increased flexibility, this model is more preferred. There's another model, though not for your traditional e-commerces, the hyperlocal model. This one's heavily trending right now, and it is meant for the Zeptos and Blinkits kind of players who focus on instant delivery and local demand fulfillment. So if we take any e-commerce today, such are the carbon emission distributions per product for a typical supply chain of 2020. Anything striking here? Well, you must have read it. Yes, a whopping 45% of emissions are due to packaging. It is no secret that our planet is choking on plastic, and this is the main packaging material used by major e commerce players and filling our landfills like crazy. To put it into perspective, only the plastic wastage generated worldwide by e commerce is equivalent to the weight of human population of India and China combined. Basically, when scaled, the problem we're trying to solve is huge. COVID has not helped us much here. Post COVID, though the e commerce industry has seen a boom, we don't really have very good news for the environment. The Indian e commerce market has seen the highest growth of about 27% in 2021. And to fill this gap in demand, companies focused on scaling. This burst of uncontrolled growth has brought with it its own social challenges. But why am I explaining the problem so much? Well, this is not a Gen Z or a millennial problem. Research on supply chain optimization, be it inventory, packing, last mile, etc., has been going on from decades. Companies have been using demand forecasting for better inventory management, and right now they're delving into virtual and augmented reality to better the customer shopping experience. So these solutions are already being implemented by various companies, which are showing substantial results across various verticals. But the fact remains that you can only manage what you can measure. So let us take a quick look at how that is done. Worldwide, companies follow the GHG protocols to track carbon emissions over the life cycle of their product. Over 45 countries have some sort of carbon pricing system, either in the form of taxes or caps and trades. These systems are quite effective. For example, in Sweden, 11% of transportation emissions were reduced because of carbon taxing. This is the way to go forward for India. And this is applicable to India in the context of the recent announcement by the Prime Minister on our carbon neutral status by the end of 2070. To broadly explain the facets, today we are going to focus on warehousing, packaging, and transportation. But also, if you look at any business, it is not just about changing your process. Certain things will always be customer driven. So, our solutions are also targeted to conditioning the customer's choices and promoting them to to choose more sustainable options. Over to you, Divishi.
Did you know that the National Green Tribunal fined Amazon and Flipkart for the excessive plastic use in 2020? The act of throwing away the package from a delivery doesn't seem so trivial right now, does it? As we saw, packaging accounts for 45% of the carbon emissions in e-commerce. So let's start with the biggest chunk. Most of the e-commerce platforms use either polythene bags, paper bags, or corrugated boxes. Considering the LDPE bags, these are single-use, and a staggering 49% of them are discarded, ending up in huge landfills. Currently, a polythene bag follows a linear life cycle, starting from the producer, purchased by the e-commerce company, and finally discarded by the customer. If you were to solve this problem, what comes to your mind? Recycle, isn't it? But it is always reduce and reuse over recycle. We propose to reduce single-use plastic usage by replacing them with reusable bags returned to the delivery partner at the time of delivery. Although these are 4 times costlier, they can be reutilized a minimum of 20 times. This is how it impacts the planet and profits. For 20 deliveries, we need 20 single-use plastic bags, but only 1 reusable bag, reducing the carbon footprint from 5.2 kgs to 1.1 kgs. Overall, we are able to achieve a monumental 72% reduction in carbon footprint, 38% fewer costs, and 70% lesser waste. The implementation can be scoped out starting from captive logistic arms, which fulfill about 80% of an e-commerce shipments. We will pilot in dense neighborhoods, finally panning out to third-party logistics across India over the period of a year. Moving to our second solution. I'm sure you would have been in a situation where your package was coming that you knew you couldn't receive, but you could do nothing about it, and then you have to wait oh so desperately for it to come back. Rescheduling is the solution. Being able to reschedule your deliveries means lesser kilometers, lesser fuel costs, better efficiency, and a richer customer experience. Our proposed solution involves contacting customers via automated chatbots. Customers are notified once the package arrives at the distribution center. The customer can then accept or reschedule the delivery according to their convenience. This is expected to increase the success rate of first attempt deliveries to 90%. Our solution enables the delivery person to do 30 days worth of deliveries in 24 days only. This brings down the fuel consumption by 9.5%, increases the delivery person's income by 12.5%, and decreases the carbon footprint by 15%. Our next solution is based on electrical vehicles, which are all the buzz right now. But tell me, how many deliveries have you received by an EV? Rising fuel costs in an uncontrolled growth scenario puts tremendous stress on business models and carbon goals. EV adoption is based on 3 pillars: product, servicing, and financing. The transition to EV is the future, and the way forward would be full electrification whenever reliable technology is accessible and scalable. The level 1 incentives adopt a bystander approach and simply set targets for replacing current fleet and onboarding of new vehicles. These incentives are already being implemented, and the EV industry is unable to meet the demands. To effectively electrify last mile delivery fleets, logistics companies must utilize their soft power to accelerate the process. We propose actively engage and build the space together with our level 2 incentives. Strategic investments in battery technology, pilots with new electrical vehicle providers, and setting up an innovation team at Noki will help improve the product and testing. Dedicated EV space at warehouses will help build infrastructure, and only reducing cost of failed deliveries from CV ride cost will make this market more lucrative and bring in innovation. Even after significant operational benefits, reliability costs always play a pivotal role in all decisions. With the incentives implemented, we expect to build this space together and solve issues like range anxiety, affordability cost, and reliable servicing. We are expecting 60% cost and 30% carbon savings are predicted with level 2 incentives over a span of 5 years. Over to you, Krishi.
Amazon individually uses 44,000 tons of coal every year to power its warehouses. And this is huge, causing huge amount of pollution. To make these warehouses more sustainable, we propose solar rooftops. Solar energy is one of the cheapest sources of energy. The cost of electricity from solar is half of that of the fossil fuels. It helps in making the warehouses self-sufficient, produce profits in long term, and help in reducing carbon emissions. The biggest hurdle while deploying solar panels is the perception of huge capital investment and lower returns. But when you consider deploying solar panels over a normal warehouse, which gives payback in and around 5.9 years in with heavy profits thereon, it is not a bad idea. On a normal sunny day, a warehouse of 10,000 square feet will produce 59% more electricity than its consumption at standard test conditions. The excess electricity can be sold through the net metering system to get extra revenue. In a solar lifetime, that is 25 years, we will be saving 97% of the total carbon emissions produced due to fossil fuel based electricity in the status quo. Here is a case study about installing solar rooftops over the warehouses of Amazon India, spanning over 10 million square feet. We plan to install solar panels in an incremental fashion, covering 10% of the total area in the first year and increasing 15% area in the subsequent 4 years. The discounted break-even point is 5 years. The total profits earned at the end of 10 years is 160 crore a year, and which is huge. Though the investment here is huge at the first, the profit are huge at the end of 10 years. Next solution. The company that satisfies its customers, its employees never go hungry. And this is a solution to meet the customer needs and help them satisfy their demands. This is the Green Loyalty Program. The main aim of the program is to sensitize the customer towards green shopping practices. We would like to shift the transactions to cashless, which has multiple benefits, right from reducing carbon emissions to decreasing product returns, hence shaping consumer behavior. Through this, we are making the customer journey more rewarding. We are rewarding a total of 5% of the total product value for green practices. The biggest problem that any e-commerce firm faces is the number of returns, and the maximum returns that occur are on the deliveries which are cash on delivery. Hence, we would like to incentivize those orders which are online and prepaid transaction, and hence reward them with loyalty points. Loyalty points will also be rewarded on returning secondary packaging and providing product reviews, which makes proper consumer choices and helps reduce the plastics. We are saving on last mile transportation costs by providing incentive points to one time delivery and on time rescheduling, hence reducing the fuel costs also. At the end of 5 years, we estimate that we would be reducing 11.2% of the total returns through this program, and we would also retain a lot of customers. We would be successful in changing consumer behavior and moving them towards the cashless transactions. After 5 years, we would be saving 9,975 tons of carbon through this program, which would be equivalent to planting 54,000 teak trees. Roadmap over the 5 years. The solution of rescheduling and reusable packaging are easily implementable with less capital investment and can be put into action first year. Its impact can be realized at the end of 3 to 4 years. On the other hand, solar rooftops and EVs are highly capital intensive and hence would require complete 5 years to implement, around 10 years to realize the impact in terms of high profits. Green loyalty program is also easily implementable but require around 4 years to show impact. We are trying to develop the customer journey along with making it environment friendly through these green loyalty program and efficient rescheduling. Hence, we'll also aim to increase the customer base. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, this is Avneet here. Very nice presentation, Khushi and the team. Just want to understand what's your view on the entire reverse logistics, right? I mean, one of the major carbon footprint or carbon emission which is being, contributor to the entire supply chain of e-commerce is because of the reverse logistics, right? Product goes to the customer, comes back to the warehouses, sometimes have to be returned back, sometimes have to be discarded, sometimes have to be sold. What's your view on that?
Okay, I will take this. So basically, from the research that we've done so far, it is very clear that the reverse logistics is a major problem. So what we feel is that when a customer, so what we are trying to do basically is we are trying to make the buying process more informed. We are giving the customer a chance to make a more informed choice so that the probability of returns reduces, because you cannot just, I mean, you can't say that you can't return the product, because that hampers the customer experience. And by research we found out that if the customer journey is hampered, then there is a high chance that your customer will move to some other platform, which we obviously don't want. So without losing out on customer base, reducing the returns problem can be done by making sure that the customer is making a more informed choice, and that can be done by increasing um the the real reviews of the product, which we are trying to enforce by our loyalty program. And apart from that, we are also trying to implement solutions like EV, etc., which come in and reduce the carbon footprint in the entire delivery part of the transportation part, which also includes the last mile.
Okay, thank you. That's all from my side. We can go to the next team, please.
Okay, thank you
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Hello. Do we
Hi.
start?
Yeah, I don't think other teammates have raised their hands. Like, can you, team six, all the participants are not here, all the presenters are not here.
Okay.
They have to raise their hands.
Yeah, sure. I believe all the five participants have raised hands again.
Yeah, I can see them now.
Mute yourself. Okay. I think everybody is on video and everybody is muted. Can we start?
Yeah, team 6, please check if you have mic access and presenter access. I've invited
It's
all five
team.
of, I've added all five of you on stage.
It's team 6, right? Team 6.
Yeah, this is team 6.
Okay. Okay. All right, guys. Let's start.
Yeah, team 6, you guys can start.
Okay, everybody has access now. I'll start presenting. Hope this is visible.
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Okay, I am going to start now. Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is Team 6, and this is our Blue Yonder Sustainable Supply Chain case study. Initially, how we went about the entire problem statement is we went in a top-down approach in a fairly mutually exclusive, cumulatively exhaustive fashion, and we broke down the entire supply chain at each stage as dictated by the problem statement: transportation, warehousing, and packaging. As we know, transportation is the major contributor with around 70 to 72%, and warehousing and packaging are at equal numbers, around 10 to 15%. So at each stage, we went about breaking it down in consulting fashion. We kept going down and down, and at the final level, what we did was we ended up optimizing for the pallet volume. We optimized the route using artificial intelligence, and in warehousing, a fairly elaborate process of emissions per warehouse using process-oriented and process-independent things we did. So in process oriented, there was intralogistics, and process independent was building skin and building technology. And each of these is color coded to tell you that the green color includes packaging that has space management and material management. The blue color things include vehicle rerouting and optimization of routes. The pink color is distance per vehicle, that is rerouting itself in the supply chain. And finally, yellow is warehousing essentially. So this is how we've broken down the problem, and once we went to the final stage and we optimized at the final stage where we could save what. Now I will hand it over to Mallikarjun.
Your screen is.
Sorry?
Yeah. Now we move on to the warehousing analysis. As already told, we started off finding out the total amount of space in India. It comes about as 28 million square meters. Then we took on to a sample space to do our calculations and our approach. We took on grade A warehouse, which is what companies are moving forward these days. We took a 10,000 square meters grade A warehouse. And then we started off finding what is the energy distribution in a normal warehouse, how it happens. So we found out that 60% of the electricity consumptions on which is the carbon emissions, it comes out from the lighting, and for around 40% comes out of the heating and cooling effects. This is that we found out the total illumination consumption to be around 1.49 lakhs kilowatt hours, and the carbon footprint coming out at kgs per CO2 around 1.19 lakhs. We also took a preliminary assumption of the lighting distribution to be around 15% incandescent, 40% fluorescent, 20% halogen, and 25% LED. This is our primary basic assumptions in regard to our sample warehouse.
Moving on to the next slide, we will see this is the total initiatives, the three parts of warehousing: the building skin, building tech, infra logistics, and we have drilled down into one part of it, which we have concentrated on one parameter each mostly. We have divided the lightning components into 4 stages, which will go to the next slides, and the intra logistics and the building skin again divided. Now let us concentrate on the lightning component. Under warehousing in the building tech, while there are many components of heating, cooling systems, and others, we concentrated more on the lightning element. Under stage one, we went for 100% LEDification. There we found out that we are making an almost over a 5 basis, a 72% cost reduction, which implements our total carbon footprint reduction over a 5-year basis to 72%. Stage two, we integrated skylighting to it, a 5% skylighting, so which added another level of 13% with respect to a stage one, a more CO2 reduction. Then we went to stage three, where we integrated smart sensor-based lighting. Here we've taken an assumption that due to smart motion sitting pressure, there is a 40% reduction. Now, this assumption is basis that due to this IoT-based platform that we are using, we will be able to gauge the proximity and the usage and everything, right? So again, we see that with respect to stage one, we have a 50% reduction in CO2. We also tried to integrate on stage for the structural design of how lights are placed within the warehouse. Normally, it is in a linear fashion. We tried to find out a matrix format, where we found out that the number of lights that can be used in a matrix format is close to 30 to 40% lesser than what it is in a linear fashion, right? Given that they have almost a 90% similar illumination. And then we concentrated all the stages into 5 parameters under sustainability, capex, implementation time, under the monetary benefits, and the feasibility, right? As you can see, the structure, it's fairly, most of them, there are some parts which are capex heavy, some which are more integration heavy. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, now we concentrate on the warehousing skin part, which will be taken over by Abhinav.
Yeah. So moving on to this building skin part of the warehousing, we have 2 initiatives here. Initiative one is regarding the insulation within the warehouse itself. And here, looking at all the factors with respect to heating and cooling, we come to a total reduction of 48% post insulation of the complete warehouse. Now, looking at the second initiative that we have, this is a futuristic initiative which we wanted to implement just because it has already been starting to implement with respect to tiles which can generate electricity upon people stepping on it. Now, this initiative is called the flip plate electricity generation. So basically, all the vehicles which come inside or outside the warehouse can generate electricity by the pressure that they put on the flooring. So here we integrate flip plates within the warehouse and also outside the warehouse. And using the inside warehouse flip plates, we can generate 1080 kilowatt energy per year. Using the outside warehouse flip plates, we can generate electricity of 115,200 kilowatts per year. And adding it all up, the total reduction in electricity consumptions comes out to be 22%. Now, on the top right, we have another radar chart which actually compares both of the initiatives that we have here. And looking at it, it looks like the first thing that we should do is building the insulation system, which reduces the carbon emissions by 48%. And on the bottom right, we have the flip plate mechanism shown. We can move on to the next slide. Yeah. So here we are focused on the interlogistics segment of the warehousing part. Again, here we have 2 initiatives. First initiative is with respect to mezzanine floor implementation. Now, this is this is an initiative which has been implemented by throughout the industry a lot. But here, what we've done is we have looked at an optimal structure with respect to the smart sensor-based lighting that we have. So the smart sensor-based lighting actually captures a lot of data within the warehouse as to how the inventory is moving out, how the inventory is coming in, and what specific products are being selling out the most. So on the basis of that, we've come out with an optimum structure for the warehouse, which is shown here with the top view and a cross-sectional view. Now, this is for the mezzanine floor, which we have to implement on the second floor of the warehouse itself, which would increase our storage space. The second initiative that we have is material handling. Here, we are looking at a total electrification of the forklift fleet that we have within the warehouse, and also a route optimization within the warehouse, so as there is a less route inside the warehouse itself, and thus the electricity consumption or the fuel consumption decreases. Uh, on the bottom right, we have the radar chart, which clearly shows that the mezzanine floor is the first initiative that we should go forward, and it's very feasible because it's already been being implemented around the industry. Now I will like to hand it over to Sanjana to take over from the next slide.
Thank you. So when we look at transportation and packaging, we look at it from three different aspects, which are the stacking procedure, the material used for packaging, and the fuel changes used for transportation. Talking about the packaging scenario, so we look at a scenario of stacking in the normal packaging system and the nested packaging system, where we see that if we move to the nested packaging system, we can reduce up to 10,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions. If we move from standard cardboard packaging as that is used today to alternative modes of packaging, we can reduce up to 20,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide emission. And if we move from a standard diesel engine truck to a standard EV engine truck, we can reduce up to 6 kilograms of CO2 emissions. The assumptions that we have taken to come to these calculations have been stated as above. Next slide. In this, we're looking at the initiatives that we have proposed. The first initiative, we are proposing a 50% fleet electrification and not going for the 100% itself. So we started in a phased manner. In conjunction with it, we're introducing the nighttime delivery and micro hubs as an implementation procedure. And the third is the customers as partners, which is communicating to customers the impact that they can have through behavioral nudges. And these can reduce respectively up to 14% and 27% and 18% of carbon dioxide emissions. Next slide. These have been broken down into two different segments. In the short term, from a span of 0 to 5 years, we want to see these three working together, the 50% of electric vans, the micro hubs, and nighttime deliveries. And in the next stage, we want to move on to H2, F2, FCEV vehicles and multi-brand parcel shop. By the end, we hope to come down to about 41% of reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. Next slide. When we come to our major initiative, we have taken our survey, and on the extreme left, we have a context for our research methodology, wherein in order to remove all biases and carry on our experiment, we gave participants the option to choose in between three randomized options. One with no behavioral nudges, one with nudges from the beginning, and one where they've introduced at a later stage. The underlying assumption in this is that consumers today are more conscious about the impact that they have on the environment, and we know that they want to create a change, and more companies are coming up with it. So there's a proof of concept that exists that shows that consumers can be nudged to bring about visible changes. So when we look at the surveys that we have conducted, we see that although 75% people were not aware of the exact carbon footprint that they can help reduce if they choose a slower delivery shipping option, when they have been introduced to the notion of it, 57% of that pool of audience is willing to shift to a program that we call a green membership, wherein they'll be notified about the impact that they're going to have, and then they can make informed decisions about it, and they'll be given loyalty benefits according to it. 61% of them are actually willing to pay much more extra than they normally pay for carbon neutral delivery. The business implications that we have are that so the trucks can invest and they can fully utilize the truck volume, and they can increase the utilization efficiency, and they have source for extra revenue generation. The recommendations that we put forward are to go with behavioral nudges as something that works in conjunction with nighttime delivery, and establishing green hubs in localities in a radius of about 3 kilometers, wherein people will be employed and they can be privy to this initiative. Next slide. Now we look at the packaging initiatives, also looked at from three different aspects. When we look at the packaging materials, we see that if we shift to padded mailers, which uses recycled papers, and in between we've given the glue that can be modified, and hence we can mitigate about 13% of reduction. In nested packaging, if we move from a normal modes of packaging to nested, we can mitigate up to 8%, and in case of genetic algorithm, we can mitigate up to 4% of, which will be taken further by Repti.
Yeah, thank you. So, genetic algorithm is an AI-based approach which is used for optimization problems. It is based on the natural process selection, and it mimics biological evolution. The basic theme is survival of the fittest. So, in the algorithm, the user inputs the dimension of the various boxes. It randomly sets the position in the 3D environment, and it checks for the overlap. If there is no overlap, reproduction happens via crossover and mutation. Again, the algorithm checks for the overlap, and finally the boxes are placed into the selected space Over the generations, it optimizes the space, and basically we get a minimized volume of the outer container. Yeah, over to you, Mallikarjun.
Right. We have seen the overall warehousing, the initiatives that we took and the impact. We've also seen transportation and the packaging part. Now we'll move on to the financial feasibility on the 5-year basis and the impact is concerned. So the electricity cost we can see on the savings we are making for the warehousing part, it is almost 98% on a 5-year basis. If you use insulation, it goes on to 32, and it goes on to transportation. We see a 6%. This is due to the heavy capex cost involved. Now we move on, including the customer nudge to faster to slower deliveries. We see that there is a 10% reduction in the total CO2 emissions. It's a good number we are aiming for. Next slide, please. Again, drilling down to the operational feasibility of it on the 5 parameters that we already have shown, we have mixed it into a single actionability index. We see that in the warehousing, we see that vertical stacking, we see a 4 actionability is implementable. Insulation is easily implementable. The lightning mix is similar on a 5-5 with customers as a partner, which we feel is the focal point for transportation as of now. Right, the 50% fleet electrification on a phased manner on a 5-year basis seems reasonable at a 4 basis. And again, the nighttime delivery and micro hubs, while that has a human factor, that's why there is a reduced actionability. The first free packaging, delivery nested packaging, all comes under 3 and 4. Right. The AI-based genetic algorithm, we feel is a good one. It can be implemented again in a phased manner so that the humans can, be also integrated into the actionability. So it's a 4. Now we will give it to Siddharth, who will close on.
Yeah. So we have seen how each warehousing, packaging, and transportation, each of these parts have been broken down at a very micro level, and each of them have been explored in a reasonable depth. For each of them, we have our Excel sheets that have been hyperlinked inside the presentation that show you detailed calculations of how we went about, what is the assumptions we made, and everything that needs to be told about the kind of approach, the guesstimates that we went, and all the references are there in the final PDF, in the final slide. With this, we would like to conclude. So, thank you.
Hi team, very good presentation. And can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Ragini, can you confirm? Yeah. Okay, can we go to your second
Yeah, you're
slide?
audible.
I can just see the references page. Yeah. So a couple of feedback before I ask questions. I think you guys have gone really into detailed analysis of electricity, carbon footprint utilization in warehouse. That's nice. And I think another point that you guys have really touched is the behavioral nudges for the end consumers. So my question is behavioral nudges. I understand that a very high percentage of your sustainability footprint and the ways that you have depicted is dependent on this, right? How do you go about it? How are you planning to measure the behavioral nudges? How do you measure it? I mean, it's a good KPI to have, that it will contribute to the reduction by 10% or 15%, as I understand. How do you measure it?
Am I audible?
I think there is a echo.
Hello?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. So just because I had some internet disturbances, could you as in how do we go about quantifying the results that we obtain from the behavioral nudges? Is that the question?
Yes. How do you
Okay.
attribute it? So it's very easy to measure the rest of the impacts, right?
Right.
Electricity is very directly, you can measure it.
Right.
Packaging, you can measure it. How do you measure the impact from behavioral nudges?
Okay.
How
Uh,
do you think that's going to be successful?
Okay. So we think that it's going to be successful. So first of all, if you look at one parameter, which is the consumer satisfaction, so looking at that, when we intend to go out with this initiative, the first thing we do is to study the market sentiment around it. So we kind of go through a controlled versus treatment experiment, which is also what we try to do, and we look at what the scenario would be like if consumers were not given any intimation of the impact that they were having, and another treatment group where consumers were given the intimation at the very first stage, and another treatment group where they have been given the intimation at a later stage. So through these three, we aim to quantify and check the results and gain insights into the consumer satisfaction levels as we move on through it. And after it has been implemented, at least on a pilot level survey, we again want to implement a similar survey wherein we go about studying the market sentiment, and mostly which is conducted through carrying on focus group interviews and just getting to know more about it, and then bringing it down to parameters.
Okay. I mean, a suggestion for your next phase is that behavioral nudges, probably incentivizing them for a nighttime deliveries, which can be easily measurable, because if there is a lower delivery cost or some cash discount on the product that they are buying and getting delivered at night, probably will be a direct impact and a measurable impact for a behavioral nudge. It's just a suggestion. Yeah.
Right.
Second one is the nested packaging. Can you elaborate a bit more? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I'll take this. So, nested packaging is basically the crisscross arrangement of goods, which is done. So, generally, during transport and all, we sometimes face linear packaging that leads to more empty spaces. Instead of that, if we do a nested packaging, then that is basically going to reduce the space, and we can include more products in one trip, and this will eventually lead to reduction in the carbon footprint because it will lead to decrease in the number of trips. Yeah, that
Okay.
was the basic idea behind it.
All right. Maybe a bit of elaboration in the next phase as to what is the measurement, how much will you reduce, or how much will you optimize the space if you use
Yeah.
nested packaging with examples
Okay.
across industries.
Siddharth, can you present the spreadsheet?
Hang on, I will have to. And for it's not hyperlinked directly, right?
That's okay. I mean, if you have it somewhere, then I can go through your presentation. Not a problem. It's just a direct impact because every product and every industry cannot have nested packaging, right?
Yeah,
It
nested
will be
packaging is
Yeah,
nested
the time
packaging.
for Q&A is over, so we'll have to wrap up the presentation.
okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. So my last point is this genetic algorithm. Very interesting concept. Maybe in the next phase we'll be happy
Yes,
to have a look at it. Right.
yes, we
Thank
will
you.
be very happy to explain it offline because I think our time is up
Yeah.
and very sorry
Yeah.
for not being able to present it quickly now.
Not a problem. We'll have a look at your presentations offline. No problem.
Yes. All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for the feedback.
I guess like few of our members need to be invited to the stage. Uh, you raised your hands. Two more people, Murtaza Hassan and Jyotishmal Gopal. Murtaza Hassan alone. Yeah, Murtaza will be presenting.
Yeah, entire screen. Okay. So we should begin, right?
Yeah, you guys can start.
Okay. Ask if they are able to see this. Oh yeah. PPT, is the PPT visible?
Is the PPT visible?
No, it's not visible.
Yeah. What is that? Okay, I will share. 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 It's fine. Hmm. Good morning. Today, I, along with my teammates, are going to present you a sustainable supply chain model, which we hope will help NOSI to reach its sustainability goals within a structured 5-year plan. So first of all, let us look at the present model. Here's a schematic supply chain diagram, which is showing the different aspects of the supply chain. And along with this, we have the average carbon emission percentage of each segment of the supply chain. As we can see, packaging is not only one of the most important parts of the supply chain and also the initial part of the supply chain, but it also contributes to the largest chunk of carbon emission in the supply chain. So now what we can do about this? So let's first tackle the problems in retail and delivery packaging. First of all, if we look that according to studies, only 25% of the people actually read the manuals which are coming with the product, which is a big problem. And second of all, there's inefficient packaging, mostly in the e-commerce part of the supply chain. As we can see in this picture, there is a small HP inkjet cartridge, printer cartridge, which comes in such a big box. This is not only a wastage of material, but also a wastage of space. So in order to tackle these two problems, we are proposing the following two solutions. First solution is e-documentation. So what we are proposing is that we will get rid of all physical paper-based documentation and paperwork and move to a digital setup. And the second is integrated packaging, which basically means that all the different layers of packaging which covers a particular product will be removed and will integrated to a single layer of packaging. Now, integrated packaging has already been attempted and experimented by other companies like Amazon and Flipkart. However, even if this is a positive step towards the betterment and sustainability of the supply chain, the effects have not been well pronounced in the Indian market. Now, why is that so? So basically, there are two reasons for this. The first reason is that the product companies reluctance to adopt a basic exterior packaging style. That is, the product company wants their product to be placed in a beautiful and attractive box. And the second problem is that the conflict of opinion between the product company and the e-commerce company. While the product company wants their product to be put in an attractive box, the e-commerce wants a eco-friendly packaging. But in NOSI, we are expecting this problem should not occur because it is a amalgamation of prominent companies from both the product side and e-commerce. So we expect a mutual understanding can be attained between them, and integrated packaging e-documentation could be expected in the coming years. Now, to further understand the scope of integrated packaging and e-documentation, let us take an example. So, taking an example of a very common product, the smartphone. So here is a demonstration of a integrated packaging box. So what we are doing is we are completely removing the secondary layer of packaging and including that secondary layer of cardboard packaging within the primary packaging of the mobile phone. As you can see, this reduces a lot of material and space. So now going into the calculations, so this is the current model of a smartphone box, both internal and external packaging. You can see the estimated cost and the estimated carbon footprint of the current model. And this is the same thing, but with intricate packaging and e-documentation. As you can see the numbers, the packaging charges, the carbon footprint, the weight and volume, everything has reduced significantly. Taking another example of a very popular toy, the Rubik's Cube. Now here also we are doing the same thing. As you can see, the estimated cost of packaging a Rubik's Cube is around 21 rupees. And if we are using integrated packaging along with e-documentation, it goes to a mere 2.23 rupees. Again, the four factors have reduced drastically. So NOSI can expect a total net carbon footprint decrease of 65% wherever e-documentation integrated packaging is possible. Now we have tackled the problems which are associated with the primary and the secondary layers of packaging. So now let us see what we can do in the tertiary or the transit packaging. Now we all know that transit packaging is dominated by the CFCs, that is corrugated fiberboard cartons or basically cardboard boxes. Theoretically speaking, a cardboard box is designed to be used 10 times. However, in practice, a cardboard box can be only used 4 times. We have talked with some stakeholders in the industries, and they have enlightened us with the fact that due to local issues, actually a cardboard box is only being used 1 to 3 times. And over this, moisture, humidity, chemical heat. These are some of the things which the cardboard box does not stand good with. Also, when you throw a cardboard box into a landfill, it produces methane, which is 21 times stronger greenhouse gas compared to carbon dioxide. So what we can do with how to get rid of these 4 problems? So we propose that we should shift from CFCs to polypropylene, that is PP boxes, which has very bright future in the packaging industry. It has various benefits, namely weight. A PP box is lighter than a CFC box. Strength, a PP box is stronger than a CFC carton box. That is, a PP box can be lighter, so less material is required to make a PP box. Thirdly, PP box can be colored, so that helps in the sorting part of the warehousing. Fourth, a PP box is more durable, while a CFC box can only be used 4 or 3 times practically. A PP box is specifically designed to be used 60 times throughout its lifetime. And fifth is the cost. PP box definitely is costlier than CFC box, but if we are considering all the factors together, a PP box is actually an economically viable option. Here, as we can see the numbers again, the packing charges will decrease by 44% if you are shifting to PP box, and carbon footprint will decrease by 86%. Now, we know plastic is unsustainable. Yes, it's a fact. It is not biodegradable, and it also causes pollution. So, and plastic is not only a part of packaging, but it's a part of the whole supply chain in various parts. So we need to change from plastic to a greener solution. So what we propose within the 5-year plan is that NOSI should standardize the use of PHA, polyhydroxyalkanoate, which is a marine-based biopolymer resin which is derived from soil bacteria, which means it is completely biodegradable. Talking in numbers, a fossil fuel-based plastic bottle will take around 450 years to biodegrade, but a PHA bottle will decompose within 2 months in the sea. Also, a PHA can replace all sorts of plastic which are commercially being used today, and it can be used as rigid as well as flexible plastic. Handing it over to Solan.
Right. On to the initiatives about long-haul transporting. Trucks dominate the first mile, as we know, and we thought that trains would be a better alternative. Trains in India have an extensive network, and it's significantly electrified also, and they have plans to fully electrify it within the 5 years, say. And presently, trains are cheaper, and with rising diesel prices, trains will be better alternatives to trucks. So why hasn't this happened yet? So we tried to contact people and find out why. And it turned out that there are issues like pilferage, agents, unions, and material handling. Material handling is basically that the products have to be transported like a few kilometers away from the train stations, and that also costs a major part. On to the next slide. So to know more, we had contacted the co-founder of Delivery. He also had confirmed that railways are promising and they keep retrying every couple of years, but they also face ground level issues. Given these issues, which have to be solved at the policy level, for now we suggest that NOSI push for private freight trains, which will give control over issues like pilferage, so that you can act on them. And one more solution that has worked decently is called roll-on, roll-off, where trucks with the load are boarded on trains directly, and after reaching the destination, the trucks are unloaded, and they can continue their journey to other close-by towns and cities. This way, material handling is not an issue, and the pricing for this service is cheaper than sending a truck directly, And we propose that NOSI also try pushing for expansion of this service across other regions, like the Konkan Railway model, where it's presently implemented and has been successful. On to the next initiative about eco-friendly deliveries. So we know that express one-day deliveries are expensive, both in terms of cost and carbon footprint. So we propose that major e-commerce companies who provide express delivery to also provide an option called as an eco-friendly delivery that the customer can opt for. Internally, this option can be considered as a standard time delivery that would take about a week or so. Instead of sending the packages by air, we can send them through regular shipping modes like trucks or trains. And the extra time would also give the flexibility for companies to batch loads and fully fill vehicles and be efficient that way. Now, what has been done till now? Presently, Amazon has this program called the No Rush Delivery for Prime users, where if the user opts for a No Rush delivery, they get a small cashback and the product arrives a few days later. We propose that above this, they also include the amount of carbon savings that would happen if the user opts for a slower delivery and add UI nudges so that the environmentally conscious users who don't necessarily need the product immediately will opt for it. You may not need every product the next day and you may be fine with it. So even if we expect that about 5% of the express deliveries are converted to standard deliveries, about 3.75% of the net emissions from express deliveries would be reduced that way. Moving on to warehousing. As the previous presentations also said, warehousing is a major part of the supply chain, accounting for at least 15% of the costs, as well as emissions in the supply chain of the product. The major spends happen on material handling, sorting, and powering the warehouse with lighting, temperature control, etc. On to the next slide. The present conditions of the warehouse are that they're not outdated and they use technology, and the government had mandated that they upgrade to LED lights, and they also use software for managing the warehouse, so they're not too outdated, and otherwise most of the energy needs are met with electricity. Moving on. So the initial suggestive solutions would be to use connected lighting and upgrading forklifts. Connected lighting, so this is basically software with sensors that can help smartly manage lighting by lighting only portions of the warehouse that are being used and saving electricity that way. So it will also help with maintenance and cutting costs. And one more thing is that with forklifts, if they're fuel powered now, we propose that we use hybrid forklifts so that with higher workload, you can manage the load and you can also get the savings of battery powered. Also, moving on to the next slide. The main focus now on the warehouses, the suggestion is that we use solar energy for powering the warehouses, and it will be able to meet a significant portion and maybe even produce extra electricity for meeting the needs. And also presently, like let's say only 40% of India's electricity is produced from renewable sources, so producing electricity from solar power will be a greener alternative. Moving on to the next slide. Onto the trucking industry. So we had also contacted people here, and one main issue we found that was the trucks were running empty. As much as about 35% of the trucks run empty. If we take the example of Chaman Lal, who's a truck owner based in Delhi, and he transports goods for companies to cities like Ranchi and Bhopal. He'll take the loads from Delhi to say Ranchi, but he'll be returning empty because he wasn't assigned a load to uh, uh, carry back. On to the next slide. So has this problem been solved? Yes. Startups like Blackbuck and Raho have created load matching platforms. But even from talking to people again and reading Play Store reviews, we learned that there are a few minor implementation issues here, like documentation delays and delays in the loading and unloading process, and there are special needs for a few products that need the truck to be cleaned, etc. So now our suggestion is that NOSI encourage the members to use load matching platforms extensively, and that the load matching platform, the service provider, introduce a new metric of an estimate of how much time the trip would take, including loading and unloading times for certain goods. Using this estimate, the management can take a decision whether to take the load or return as soon as possible for the next trip. This way, uh, if we take the load when returning, then we cover at least half of the transportation cost. And assuming that we reduce the empty truck percentage to 15%, the net savings would be about 9.8 million tons of carbon emissions. Moving on to the last mile, pollution from vehicles is a major issue, and we wish to solve it using electric vehicles for last mile delivery. EVs perfectly suit the last mile delivery use case because the service radius is small, they're operationally cheaper, and the government is willing to subsidize EVs. So this graph is a study done on last mile delivery routes. It shows that the range suits the need very well, and about half of the battery is only used up for 1 day's delivery. Since the deliveries don't happen in the night, the EV batteries can be charged at night. And given the operational cost and the upfront investment, we calculate that we can break even in 2 years and can be operationally cheaper further. Again, given that the electricity production is not clean, EVs will still be greener in the future. And on to Anirudh. Anirudh, come here. Come here.
Guys, please continue. Only 1 minute is left.
Just a minute, yeah. This connection issue. It's working for you. Fuck, just all right. So apologies for the connection delay. So now you have received your product, yeah. And it's working very well. You've got what you wanted and you're a happy customer. But sometimes it does happen that the product that you received was not, it was defective. It did not look like what you wanted it to look like, and the website said something, you received something else, and now you're an unhappy customer. So you want to return the product, right? So to tackle the problem of returns, we actually held a survey of 100 plus people and found out the top 3 reasons why people actually return products. And the top 3 you can see on the slide. It's like the product actually sometimes doesn't look like the description. Sometimes the product that is defective, or sometimes it's the product is bought to return, and that happens when happens especially in the fashion industry, where people buy multiple sizes of the same cloth, shoes, or something, and then return those that don't actually fit them, right? So moving on, we tackle these 3 issues via the solutions presented. And for the first step that we want to do is that we enhance the product summary, we incentivize writing good reviews, or we standardize numerical size charts. Standardizing charts will help us, making from if we go from M and L size that are company specific, make them, number specific. That will actually, bring down return rates and choke them at the source itself. So moving on, we take a look at market share and the impact on the service level agreements. So what happens is that, okay, you've got your green product out in the market, but now you're wondering how much will it sell? Will it sell as good as before? So to look at this, we actually found that 65% of the people, they want to shop from companies that advocate sustainability goals, but only 26% end up doing so. So to drive these numbers up, we want to we follow the two-pronged approach of peer pressure and the dominoes effect, where we either pressurize a single consumer via the nudge the consumer via community messaging to let them to tell them to buy green products, or we and the dominoes effect, what we do is that once the consumer has bought one green product, they can buy the other green products as well, moving on. And then we have a few future prospects to look out for, and there are mainly three exciting things that we have. So the first is that we source plastics from the ocean. We all know the ocean is a giant trash can, right? So, and the next part, we use drones for last mile logistics. And finally, what we do.
Please wrap up your presentation. We are way past the
Oh yeah. Okay. So then we automate warehouses, and after that, we just take a look at the the numbers of how much each step of our solution has reduced the carbon footprint along with the 5-year plan. So that is all from our side. Thank you guys for the presentation, and I apologize for the network disconnection. So we're open to questions now.
Actually, I don't have many questions. I think it's quite self-explanatory. Um, but just a feedback I would like to give you, maybe for the next phase, if you guys uh, want to consider the issue of, the returns as one of the carbon footprint, and most of the teams have been talking about it. I think the commerce companies are taking a lot of steps. There's try and buy, by Mintra, and Amazon is doing a lot for their sizes, etc. That you have, mentioned over here. I think these practices are way old, and so we have to start thinking about something more innovative and new. That's
Right.
my feedback for your phase two. Um, Maybe also consider the returns when your trucks are going empty. Let's assume there is no return, to align with some other industry and take somebody else's delivery on the way, right? To optimize an empty truck going back, right? So once you have delivered, maybe pick it up, on the way. If there is something else, some other organization who wants to have something else to be delivered, some other products, maybe look at, rolling over the use of trucks multiple times in a day, and let them not go back empty, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's about it. So thank you, guys.
All right. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Are there any questions from like Avneet sir or Vinod sir? Okay, I think there are no questions, so we can wrap up the Q&A session.
All right.
Team 1, please raise your hands for the presentation. Okay, I've added all the team one presenters. So please check if you guys can speak and present.
Yeah, sure.
Can someone please confirm if the screen is visible?
Yeah, your screen is.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So we are Team One in the Blue Yonder Sustainable Supply Chain Problem Statement. Let's move to next slide. So here is what we'll be discussing in our presentation. First, we'll give a brief introduction of supply chain and the problems that we'll identify. Then we have further divided our work into three parts. First is warehouse, second is logistics, and third is packaging. For each of them, we looked at the existing problems, proposed some solutions for them, and then we did an impact analysis, which was carbon impact and SLA impact. We also calculated cost revenue impact. We also provided a 5-year solution implementation timeline, and we also looked upon solution sustainability and feasibility. And finally, we wrap up with mentioning some of the benefits for NAWCI. Let's move to next slide, please. Next slide. So here is how a typical supply chain looks. In the diagram, you can see the entire span of a supply chain, right from customer order to manufacturing and all the intermediate processes. For our work, we have chosen to focus on three parts only: warehouse, logistics, and packaging, which we have tried to highlight in the light green color in the middle of the PPT. Three activities are typically involved in a supply chain, that is procurement and manufacturing. Second is logistics and transportation, and third is warehousing and inventory management. For our work, we have chosen e-commerce supply chain, and Amazon has been taken as a proxy in India, and its carbon emissions have been estimated by us. Typically, e-commerce companies have. I think we've lost the screen, Vansh. Are you there? Hello.
Screen. Yeah.
Extremely sorry for the glitch. Uh, now to so I was continue where I left. I'll continue where I left. So e-commerce companies typically have 17% lower emissions than compared to the traditional brick and mortar retail counterparts. But with most of the companies now switching to online form of delivery, we'll see an overall increase in emissions. From here, Shubham will continue. Move to next slide.
So in this slide, I will be covering about the problems that there are present in the warehouse. So we identified four major problems corresponding to the warehouse: inefficient stacking, material handling equipment travel inefficiency, less operational efficiency and less automation, especially in India, and high energy consumption and inefficient energy use. So we will be identifying all the problems, and we have identified all the problems, and we will be coming up with the solutions in the next slide. Next slide, please. So we have basically identified four solutions. So first solution is the gravity fed shelving. So in this solution, basically storage system relies on the gravity flow to load, organize, and retrieve the store cartons or pallets within the warehouse, and it uses the space efficiently, providing high density storage. So we can say that fewer aisles are required to store more product in the same amount of floor space. That is 50% more products can be stored in the same space, so less carbon emission for the same. Storage location optimization. So for storage location optimization, it is seen that in India the storage location are the stacking is done randomly. So if the goods are clustered according to the customer order frequency, that is the most order goods are placed close to the receiving or shipping gates, then it will lead to 40% reduction in the distant travel, and also in the 40% reduction in the emission. Also, by automating our warehouses, we can increase the savings and also get a 30% saving on emissions. Also, by implementing skylights, LED, and smart lighting solutions, we can save up to 61% of the emissions. So, next slide, please. So in this slide, we will be basically looking on the feasibility and the impact analysis. So on the right side, as you can see, we have created an impact chart. So we have considered three parameters: feasibility, carbon impact, and cost to implement. And then plotted on this chart. Feasibility is basically graded on the scale of 1 to 5. Carbon impact is basically calculated by us and estimated using suitable assumptions and using some reports. So it is basically scaled from 0 to 1, and the cost to implement is also graded from 1 to 5. So the size of the circle denotes the cost to implement, and the color, that is light green to dark green, this represents the carbon impact. So we can see that gravity fed shelving and the storage location, these are the, and also automation, these are the top three solutions that we, according to us, should be implemented in the warehouse. So the overall score is basically calculated by multiplying these three parameters: cost to implement, carbon impact, and feasibility. Looking on the left side, basically, so we have analyzed the solution and consider the SLA for the same. So as we can see, for a solution that is stacking and gravity fed shelving, we have created a KPI called time taken to dispatch. So if like the uh, uh, this solution is implemented, the time taken to dispatch the order will be minimum, hence improving the performance. So that's why we can see that after implementing the solution, the KPI is 4.5 compared to 4. And similarly, in the second solution, automation, we can see that the picking efficiency increases. That is, the error of picking reduces, and also the time taken to pick the order also decreases. So the performance of the after implementing the solution will increase. Next slide, please. So in this slide, we will basically look at the sustainability of the solution that we provided earlier. So we have considered three aspects: social, economic, and environmental. So we have considered five parameters under these, and we have graded the top three solution that we obtained from the impact chart on the previous slide. And we have made a radar chart. So in this radar chart, the higher the area of the solution is, the more sustainable the solution is. So we can see that almost the all the three solutions that we identified earlier have a similar area. So we can say that these solutions that we proposed are good, sustainable. So yeah, next slide, please. So from here, Devin will continue.
So from here, we'll talk about the next part of our supply chain, that is logistics. So first, I will like to talk about the problem identified in the logistics sector. The first one is unoptimized truck use. In India, the truck use is highly unoptimized. One of the way trucks are running overloaded condition, and on the other side, they are running empty. They are not route optimization. They are not payload optimization to know that to better utilize the truck load carrying capacity. And also the technology that the supply chain logistics uses is very inefficient. They are merely based upon the 90s technology and not utilizing any of the recently developed AIs and all to modify it to reduce the carbon impact and to decrease in the cost. And the fourth point is the overuse of road transport. In India, nearly 70% of the freight is transported only through road. That is a huge problem. And road is a mere cause of the carbon emission. And further, the last mile delivery is still now based on fossil fuel. Still, as we are having the solution for it, and it can be merely implemented, but still the fossil fuel delivery is for last mile is still prevalent in a very large scale in India by various big players. Moving on to talk about the solution proposed and the impact of those solutions in the carbon emission. The first one is biodiesel and alternative fuels. India is focusing a lot of, in a great extent, on the production of biodiesel. The current production is 160 million tons per year, and if we employ it in the trucks, then without any significant changes, there can be emission or one sixth downfall in the emission as compared to petrol and diesel. Further, the next point is to minimize the empty running. This can save up to 15% in carbon emission. This will be tackled in by combining in the logistics and optimizing the routes and the payloads so as to any way minimize the empty running. The third one is eco driving. This is merely dependent on improving the driver behavior for a reduction of emission up to 20%. And this will reduce the idle time and will change the maximum speed, minimum speed, and the other trucks parameter to better utilize the truck's capability. The next is intelligent transport system. This system will use different AI technologies to better assess the driver to take best possible decision, and that we will promote in the reduction of emission. And the next is the usage of slip sheet instead of pallet. This will bring about more area in the truck to better utilize the truck carrying capacity. The next is transport sharing. Transport sharing is logistic sharing between different countries with different companies to minimize the carbon emission by empty running. And the last third is maximizing EV use. This has a great potential, and further, the emission reduction will be more than 25% for the last mile delivery. And will also go for intermodal freight transport. Will use trains to add in to the right, so that the emission can be reduced to a good extent, and further will be having a cost saving of a very high number because rails carry much cheaply than the roads. And the last part is combining last mile delivery and pickups. This is still prevalent, but we will modify it and automate it. And here is again the impact and the visibility analysis of this particular solution that we have proposed in impact chart. We can say in that intermodal freight transport has the highest potential in terms of overall score and reducing the carbon reduction. On the left side, you can have a look at the KPI analysis of the solution that we have proposed. Biodiesel have contributed in decreasing the KPI because of the less availability as in country as of now. Intermodal freight transport on markdown rate, its KPI is decreased, but not by a big number, just a small extent. In eco driving, we are on a good scale number only. We are just decreasing by 3.5, but merely reducing carbon impact by a good number. And here we talk in our sustainability of our model to this radar chart. The solutions are plotted in by the ratings for different parameters of sustainability, and through this area and the radar chart, I can assure you that our solutions are sustainable as well as applicable. So that's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Devin. So moving on to the packaging framework of a typical e-commerce supply chain, sustainable supply chain. The main problems that we identified in packaging were that plastics are used in secondary packaging relentlessly, and around 10.65 million kilograms of plastic is waste is generated every year. Another problem that we identified was incorrect size of product packaging employed in secondary and tertiary packaging, which leads to huge volumes of weight, huge volumes and weight of cardboard boxes being wasted. Also, consequently, we cannot utilize the recycling potential of cardboard boxes to its maximum. Therefore, to tackle these problems, here are our proposed solutions. Next slide. So solution one talks about using bioplastics like polyamide 4 or 10, which uses castor bean oil plants as raw materials, which is carbon neutral. The second solution is using revamped packaging, which is essentially minimalistic and right-sized compact smaller using right-sized smaller compact boxes, which makes the supply chain easier as more items can be shipped on the go and the weight of the outbox reduces by 36%. The third solution is opting for subscribe and save, where customers are expected to return the tertiary packaging of the product when the next order arrives, which utilizes the original cardboard boxes and reduces the carbon footprint to one fourth. Fourth solution is using seed paper packaging, which, when planted, for example, taking an example of marigold plant, in its 45 to 60 days of lifespan, can absorb lots of CO2, reducing the overall carbon footprint if employed on a mass scale. And the fifth solution is replacing bubble wraps with lightweight paper mailer made from 100% paper, which uses a form of glue as a cushioning material, which reduces single-use plastic and eliminating over 9 million bags a year on an average. Next, please.
Thank you, Nishtha. Next, we did impact and feasibility analysis and concluded revamped packaging to be the most feasible and impactful solution, followed by replacing bubble wrap. To carry out SLA analysis for introduction of bioplastics, we defined a KPI named safety of product. Since bioplastics are weaker than conventional plastics, there is a bigger chance of the package being damaged or getting torn. That is why we have rated it 3 compared to the rating of 4 of conventional plastics. Could we have the next slide, please? In sustainability analysis, we again rated our top 3 solutions from the previous slide, and we found revamped packaging to be the most sustainable solution. Could we have the next slide, please?
Now here we can see the cost versus revenue impact of some of the solutions that we have proposed. For example, using EVs for last mile delivery will require significant one-time investment. The rest all the numbers are there on the screen. Can you move to next slide, David? And here are some of the benefits that NAWCI members may incur. First is vehicle scrappage policy may help in reducing the one-time investment cost for EVs. Second is the incentives by government on EV purchases that range from 5 to 30,000 on single vehicle. Then there are also subsidies on solar panels. And intermodal freight will also incur a lot of cost reduction in transportation. Can you move to next slide, please, David? And here is the 5-year implementation timeline for various solutions that we have proposed. That sums up the PPT and we are open for questions.
Okay, questions from judges side.
No questions from me.
Okay, Reema ma'am, Vinod sir, if there are any questions from your side.
No, I just wanted to understand a little bit of packaging, replacing bubble wrap with some other alternative somebody was explaining. I don't know, something
Yes,
to do
ma'am.
with.
Yes, ma'am. This is a potential solution that is being applied in some of the e-commerce chains out there, where essentially to replace the bubble wrap, they use a paper which around 4 to 5 layers of paper are stuck together using an adhesive which is water based. So they apply that adhesive, and when it is heated, since it is water soluble, it is eco friendly and recyclable. And when it is heated, it sort of expands into this glue cushioning material kind of thing, which gives us that soft feel, and it basically replaces bubble wrap, where our products are safe and secure, and the plastic use is essentially minimized, reducing the overall carbon footprint.
Okay. And just before we close this off, one last question was, I think to reduce the carbon footprint, you suggested that marigold plants have to be planted or something like that. I mean, I don't get it. Is it the organizations who need to do that, or is it generally you are asking, the community to do that, or what is it?
Ma'am, actually, when we studied about some sustainable packaging options, we came across a paper called seed paper, plantable seed paper, which is a paper that has been that has been manufactured from decomposed original plastic, and they plant some of the seeds in that paper. So when you receive that package, on that particular paper it is written that plant me, and people can people can open their packages, and then if they want they if they want to contribute to a greener planet, what they can do is they can take that paper, put it in water for around a day or two, and make a ball out of it and plant it in their gardens. And if they keep on watering it, it's going to germinate into a plant. And there are various options available out there around marigold plant, and eucalyptus is available, and tomatoes are available. So we just gave a random example of a marigold plant to show that how a particular plant can create an impact, however smaller, but if employed on a larger scale, can contribute to a larger number of carbon footprint being reduced. So these papers are available out there and can be used for a packaging solutions for smaller products.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thanks, guys.
Oh, okay. I think if there are no other questions, we can wrap this up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, so the session for team one is over as well.
So we can drop off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I would like to thank the teams and the judges for this participation. Yeah, we can wrap up the session.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. Very well done by teams. Good.
Sarima.